Senna Hegde doesn't sound like a Malayali name, right? It sounds more like a North Indian kind of name. But Senna Hegde is the director who gave us the much riveted, celebrated Thinklaycha Nishchayam. This movie during the OTT COVID times when it came out on Sony Live, this is what actually set our expectations that on this particular platform, we can start expecting compelling, mind-boggling, enjoyable, simple movies, right? That's the path which Thinklaycha Nishchayam sort of tread. The second outing from Senna Hegde's 1744 White Alto was not possibly one of my personal favorites. There are a lot of people who celebrated that movie. It did have that so-called quirkiness about it. There were few things which I really liked it, but overall somehow that movie didn't work for me personally. Now coming to his third one, right, Padmini, this time around, we see a storyline that sort of, I would say, not resemble, but is more closer to Thinklaycha Nishchayam as a storyline than 1744 White Alto. The script and story of this Kunchacko Boban starrer is from the Kunyiramayanam fame Deepu Pradeep. And as expected with Senna Hegde and Deepu Pradeep combo, Padmini also has its satirical elements, right? So that's how the narrative sort of spans out. What works well for the movie is its containedness, right? It doesn't try to tread beyond its limits. It tries to stay closer to its narrative, right, and core story, and then starts tying characters all around it. While giving away the very least, in the spirit of not to have spoilers, the title Padmini evolves from a specific event in Kunchacko Boban's life, more tied to his marriage and possibly the next day, the very next day after his marriage, where this name Padmini starts becoming a name that he gets identified with. The movie Padmini centers around Kunchacko Boban's character Rameshan or Rameshan Sir, who is a college professor come poet, and possibly can be narrated as the impact three women live in his lives, right? The first one being Vincy, followed by Rebecca, and finally Aparna Balamurali. How these three women influence him and possibly how all of them come together to make his life a full circle is what Padmini the movie is all about. When it comes to this movie's strengths, the one factor that definitely works in its benefit is the cast and their performance. Starting with Kunchacko Boban, Aparna Balamurali, Madonna Sebastian and Vincy, possibly every key character contributes well to the movie, and so does the supporting actors, right? There are a myriad of supporting actors and I'm not going to name each and every one. With Kunchacko Boban, just like his recent outings, we see an effortless ability from him to emote and execute these roles to perfection. And once again, this is a role that is very safe in his hands. While Madonna Sebastian just about delivers what is enough for the character, one person which I really liked in this movie was Aparna Balamurali. We know she is possibly an actress with a lot of caliber and metal, but her recent outings has not been great. But in this one, we do see that layers of Aparna Balamurali, which has been celebrated in some of her past movies. So she's back in a very clear articulation of her character, and possibly some of the best moments in this movie are those shared between Aparna Balamurali and Kunchacko Boban. The third woman who plays a very, very critical part to bring this movie into a full circle is Vincy Aloshious. Her performance once again stands out from the rest in the sense these are characters where possibly we don't have many actresses today, particularly in Malayalam, to deliver. Once you see the movie, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because this is not a character which possibly some of our so-called leading actresses can carry off. And Vincy does that with a lot of conviction and perfection. Another highlight of the movie is definitely Jake Bijoy's music. And the music has worked out well, particularly that song, the love track between Aparna Murali and his unexpected combination pair, which maybe I will not reveal much about to keep that surprise element intact. So that song, Love You Mutte, that particular one has worked out really well. It has a nice humming sensation to it, and the way it is choreographed and the positioning of that song is also great and works well. Now, the third factor that works well for Padmini, beyond its cast and their performance and music, is the humor element of this movie. The overall narrative, if you look at it, possibly tells a very serious story, right? If you take a step back and look at it as a storyline, it's a very serious story. But the ability to lace very subtle humor, and that too the humor that works in right frequencies across this narrative, has been something Senna Hegde can be proud about. With all this said, there was one particular factor in the movie which was a letdown, right? Which was the climax part of the movie. With the way the narrative was flowing freely, particularly in the beginning of the movie, that opening shot where they are just showing the sound of a wedding scene, right? Not to give away much spoilers, but that opening setting itself had built a lot of expectations, and those expectations were pretty much intact for the major part of the movie. But when it gets to the climax, I had a very strong feeling that it was a rushed closure. Somewhere possibly the elements of the movie were not tying down, and the scriptwriter, possibly alongside the director, was forced to bring the movie to a closure. And yes, there is a surprise element, a particular leading star coming at the closure, and all those gimmicks being thrown in. But somehow that closure didn't seem convincing and organic. And because of that, Padmini more felt to me like that delicious dessert, while through the major part was really delicious, but towards the end somehow left a distaste in my mouth. And hence, to conclude, for me personally, Thinklaycha Nishchayam continues to be the best movie from Senna Hegde.